So
Oh,
the next thing I want to talk about is a little bit building on what Jason was just talking about here, and that is what's different about remote fractional consultant and freelance different. What's different? What do they bring that's different than you may have in house? And I want to unpack that a little bit. So, and I'm going to do it by the things that the Voyager community. We've got 135 members. Everybody has different skills. So we have the benefit of seeing what people on the outside or on the inside who are working outside, what they're really bringing in to create business success. And it's sort of settled into a few different categories that is interesting because these are there's things that folks bring that when you have a captured workforce, everybody's hired, everybody has a butt in a seat. When you bring remote or independent into the situation, boy, all of a sudden the world opens up a little bit. So I'm going to talk about those things. And the first one is wisdom. The beauty of having an outside workforce is those folks they've just been around. They tend to have been around for a little bit longer. They've experienced a lot of things beyond what you can ever experience in one company because they're working for five or six or seven different companies. They tend to be a little more, I shouldn't say gray hair, but they bring in a lot of wisdom to the party, and they see a broad range of wins and losses in product dev. So that's a benefit. Not saying your team or your group or your company doesn't have that, but when you reach into the independent workforce, that skill set, that wisdom is available to you. So that's one thing that might be different than what we're used to having. Two is speed and efficiency. Those who are working remotely, independently, fractional gig, they tend to be very, very fast. And there's some just basic reasons for that kind of make sense when it comes to efficiency. And it's around, they're not stuck in traffic. They don't spend time in meetings that aren't really pertinent to the project they're working on or to the role that they're playing. And so the amount of time they have to dedicate things and actually the more amount of focus they can apply is very, very high. And what ends up happening is their customers and their clients tend to get a lot of speed and a lot of efficiency. Those normal things that slow people down really aren't in their world. So that speed and efficiency piece is really great. They get their work done mostly during the day. Don't have to wait till 9 o'clock at night to open the laptop like a lot of folks do. So that's different for very real with the remote independent workforce. Another is low cost. The great part about having remote independent workers is you're not paying for them throughout the year, whether it's a high salary or benefits. You're paying for smaller pieces of it, so that normal talent cost that applies to our traditional workforce, well, it's just lower. And Jason will talk a little bit more about cost savings, but as you apply your costs that you're going to incur in developing a product and your talents costs are going to go down, you get to deploy those in other areas. So it's a very different thing and a different way to think about who you're going to put on a project. No sacrifice of skill, no sacrifice of the output you're looking for, but it is a lower cost venture. So that's really great. Another thing that you may not have, just by nature of people being outside of the house working for other clients and on different things, is I call it fresh tech tech tactics and tips. When you've stretched across maybe 5 or 10 product launches in a year, whereas sometimes people only work on one or two, that freshness, all that comes back to you. So you get to see things through the lens of somebody who's been on the outside more than maybe somebody who's been on the inside, and they bring that to the party. And that's a great injection of a lot of fresh things that are happening out that may or may not be on your radar. And that's really important just about any business. And of course, it's definitely important in product. And then last is I think this is maybe one of the greatest parts of the independent workforce is they just don't faint easily. People who choose to be independent, remote, fractional, they've been there, done that. So, if we're honest with ourselves, sometimes working through a product dev gets very stressful. It's people are, there's some late nights and maybe some tempers rise and that sort of thing. Well, those who are independent have generally been that. They're not going to pass out and faint the first time somebody flips over a table because a deadline was missed or because some aspect of the product wasn't delivered to the degree or to whatever it was. They just don't faint easily. It's more about getting the thing done right, and keeping things moving. So those are four things that this the sector of the talent in business bring that I encourage you to take the PDF because you may have some of it. It's hard to have all of it, all of these things that they bring, because that would just mean you'd have to have such a large staff with so many people with so many skills. And this is a way to sort of pare that down and pluck the skills that you'd really, really like to have. So those are some things that this independent workforce brings to you, that may not be there, and that's what's different about a lot of the talent that normally works on a product.